What on earth happened to all of our Pokemon yesterday? No, you did not get hacked, thankfully. But it may have been pretty scary and pretty weird looking at your Pokemon Go team yesterday. And out of the blue, everything has changed. The Pokemon are in different orders. They all have different CPs. Today, I'm here to let you guys know exactly what has happened, what is going on, and what these changes are within Pokemon Go that's affected all of you guys watching right now. So, just yesterday, Niantic came out and announced something very cool. They said that from the 23rd of November for a week all the way to the 30th of November, everyone playing Pokemon Go will get double experience for capturing Pokemon, doing anything in-game, so double XP for everyone, and also double Stardust for everyone, which is amazing. Stardust is not an easy currency to get, and if you've got all those awesome Pokemon that you want to power up, a lot of the time, Stardust can be the thing that is really holding you back. So, fantastic. That's awesome. But after that was announced, they came in with another announcement saying, trainers, we have made adjustments to the CP of various Pokemon. Some Pokemon, such as Alakazam, Rhydon, and Gengar, yes, will have their CP increased, which is amazing. However, others will have their CPs decreased. These changes will allow for a more balanced and competitive battling and training experience in gyms, and will continue to adjust the CP going forward to improve the game balance where necessary. So, completely unexpectedly and out of the blue, all of your Pokemon will have had their CP adjusted. Today, I'm going to let you guys know which ones have had their CPs increased, which ones have had their CPs decreased, and some of the biggest improvements overall for the top tier combat power list for all the Gen 1 Pokemon. It's been switched up a little bit, and there are some Pokemon that are now absolute machines because of this new update. It's exciting. It may be upsetting for some of you guys that love some of your Pokemon that have now dropped down a little bit, but we're going to be taking a look at them right here, right now, and letting you guys know exactly what has happened. So all of this happened actually for us yesterday, last night. Claire and I were in London for the Esports Awards, and it was a great event. Claire and I presented an award together. You may have seen some tweets, you may have seen some pictures. It was a load of fun. And as we sat back down at the table to have our dinner, someone tweeted us saying, my Pokemon have changed their CPs. I'm like, no, they haven't. What absolute rubbish. That guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And then we went and checked our Pokemon, and they had indeed been changed without us doing anything at all. So I'm going to show you guys my changes between my teams so you guys can see the differences. Now the team I'm about to show you guys is taken from a screenshot at the end of a Pokemon Go recording that will be out in a day or so. So there's some tiny spoilers here because I did do some powering up and some training of my Pokemon, but it's a great way to show you guys some of the changes. So this is my before squad. Notice how my Arcanine, my strongest Pokemon, is 2,600. Followed by Gyarados, then Snorlax, Executor, some guys that you're very much used to seeing at the top of your squad. You've got a Lapras in there, a Gengar in there, and then, after this update went live, out of the blue, things switched up massively. If we have a look now, suddenly, Gyarados is right at the top at almost 3,000. Arcanine has actually dropped down in CP. Snorlax has gone up in CP. Suddenly there's a Rhydon in 4th place. My boy Gengar has got a big buff in CP, and there's even a Flareon in there as well. There's been some huge changes. Don't worry, as I said, you haven't been hacked. It is all just algorithm changes that Niantic have underdone on the Pokemon in the game to try and make it more balanced. Now, the stats they actually pull out from the game to generate the CP power of a Pokemon, I won't go too in depth, but it basically uses attack, defense, HP, which is stamina, in-game, and they've gone ahead and just altered those a little bit to make how they feel the Pokemon to be more balanced. And as they said in that post, they're going to continue to do this, so we'll definitely be seeing more changes as we go along. But it also means that the Gen 2 Pokemon that I talked about in a video recently will have all of their CPs adjusted potentially as well. So it'll be interesting when looking forward into the future, obviously, Gen 2 comes out, how they'll go ahead and adjust those Pokemon. But obviously today, we'll be focusing on Gen 1. You've seen my changes. Feel free to tweet your changes if you've got a before and after screenshot. But let's jump into some of the biggest Pokemon that have had their increased and decreased CP stats. So, let's first of all take a look at the unfortunate Pokemon that have had a decrease in their overall combat power. And we'll focus more towards on the Pokemon that have had a big decrease in their statistics. The poor guys. One of the ones that's well up there is Ditto, that no one has quite caught yet. But that poor guy, despite not being in the game yet, has already had a decrease, the poor guy. A lot of the Caterpie evolutions have had a decrease in there. One of the big ones is the Bellsprout and also the Nidoran line as well. Unfortunately, Weeping Bell and finally Victory Bell have definitely been pulled down in overall CP, and I've seen that through my Victory Bell as well, who's unfortunately lowered, which is annoying because he had some great CP, some great potential, but now he's been brought back down. Now, one thing that's worth noting is that for a full evolution chain, for example, the Charizard evolution chain, for some reason, some of them have been decreased within an evolution chain and some of them have been increased. Charizard's a good example of that. Both Charmander and Charmeleon have dropped in maximum CP, but Charizard, the final evolution, has gone up a little bit weird there. But focusing on some of the big guys within the decreased list, we've got the poor Nidoking and Nidoqueen, an evolution I've been waiting to do, and now they've gotten a little bit worse, which definitely sucks. And also some of the starter final evolutions, both Blastoise and also Venusaur, although not huge, have had a decrease in maximum CP as well, which sucks. I, if anything, would just want to see the starting Pokemon go bigger and better, but unfortunately, those guys have gone down a little bit. On top of that, some more big, powerful Pokemon that had decreases. Executor, who is one of the biggest Pokemons in the game for TP, has gone down slightly as well, alongside Poliwrath, who has unfortunately also dropped a little bit. So if you see them falling down in your Pokemon list, you now know why. There's a few other Pokemon that have gone down slightly, like my boy Raichu, but if there's any Pokemon in your squad that you've seen have a drop which has upset you, you've been annoyed about, let me know which one it has been. Leave a comment down below and we can all be sad together as we see some of our favorite Pokemon unfortunately get a little bit worse. Let's put all the negatives to one side and focus on some of the buffs, some of the increase in maximum CPs that we've seen in the game. And sitting right at the top of this list, which I'm very excited about, is Chansey. I did a whole episode on how Chansey has amazing health. In fact, it had the best health statistic out of all of the Pokemon in Pokemon Go Gen 1, and how it could be a really good Pokemon to take into gyms and defend against. Unfortunately, because its CP was just so limited, it still didn't really stand much of a chance, though I did have fun using it. But it's now been increased massively with over 150% gain in maximum CP, with a maximum CP now of almost 1,500. Definitely taking a Chansey into a gym and using it as like a wall Pokemon, which is very hard to defeat, will work very well now, and I'm so glad that this guy has had an increase. Focusing on some of the big guys that have gone up is obviously Alakazam and the whole evolution chain. He's now a monster of a Pokemon. He is so strong. He has a huge, almost maximum CP of 3,000, which is amazing. And for me, both him, Alakazam, and Gengar, two Pokemon that were so strong in the Pokemon game series, they needed a buff. They needed to be better because they are deserving of that high CP spot. And both of them, thankfully, have had huge increases. So Alakazam with a maximum CP now of almost 3,000. And also my boy Gengar with almost a 30% increase, putting his maximum CP up being a load higher than it used to be. And you would have seen him jump up on my combat power list in Pokemon Go, which is awesome. I love him. I'm so glad he's had a buff. He is amazing. Now, there were a few Pokemon that have really been buffed to a point they've gotten over now a maximum CP of 3,000, which is huge. Again, you would have seen them on my top list. One of them being my boy Rhydon, who is now absolutely huge with a maximum CP potential of 3,300. It is crazy. Alongside him, actually coming a little bit short, is Gyarados with a maximum CP of around 3,281. Both of them will have for sure flown up your maximum CP list and are now absolutely monstrous Pokemon that are deserving to be monstrous Pokemon. They're huge, they're crazy, they're awesome, and are now fantastic and have been increased massively. Unfortunately, just falling outside about 3,000 combat score, Golem is now very high, over 2,900. He's a great evolution chain. He should always have been a strong Pokemon, but not quite as good as the Gyarados and the Rhydon we just had a look at. But he definitely would have gone up your list as well. Now, another big change I'm sure you guys are really excited about is the Eevee evolutions. Although Eevee themselves have actually fallen down a little bit in their overall maximum CPs, which sucks. I always like finding high CP Eevees in the wild. Their evolutions, Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon, have all gone up. So Jolteon, which is fantastic news, is now a lot stronger than he used to be. He was by far the worst of the 3 evolutions. Now, although the ordering of these 3 hasn't changed, Jolteon is unfortunately still the worst, followed by Flareon, and Vaporeon is still the best. They're a lot more similar now in combat power, which is fantastic. It's good to see them more on an even playing field, so that when you do those Eevee evolutions, it doesn't really matter who you get quite as much. They are all going to be great evolutions, which is amazing. 2 more big CP bumps came in the form of Machamp and Snorlax. I showed you guys my Snorlax has gone up a little bit, which is amazing. You cannot go wrong with Snorlax. With Machamp coming in over 2,800, he's now even more of a machine. And Snorlax would be as fantastic as always in gyms, defending yourself. And if you saw on that list, my Snorlax is still holding down as Team Mystic Gym. He's been holding it down for ages. I talk about it a little bit in my next Pokemon Go episode. He's amazing, and getting another buff is just great news for him. Obviously, one Pokemon everyone will be wondering about, because he is a machine, is Dragonite. If they buffed him, if they nerfed him, what have they done to him? Well, they haven't done much, but they have increased him a little bit, just by a few percent. He's now over 3,500 maximum CP, so he's still an absolute machine. If you've got a Dragonite, don't worry, he's not suddenly turning to trash. He's still fantastic and still can be very, very strong. Now, let's take a look at the new top maximum CP Pokemon for Gen 1 in Pokemon Go. Ignore, like, the legendaries that aren't out at the moment, but let's take a look at some of the ones that you should be focusing on in terms of evolving and powering up. And this links in well, and I wanted to mention the fact that Double Stardust will be coming into effect very soon, because with all those Stardust, I'm sure there'll be a lot of new Pokemon that you guys will want to get as big and as strong as possible, and you'll now know who to focus on with these changes. So obviously up there, Rhydon is absolutely smashing it with 3,300. Your Gyarados, I'm sure if you've already got one, will be huge as well. Vaporeon is massive. If you've got a Lapras, unfortunately not quite a 3,000. It's just stayed the same as you will have seen in my changes before and after screenshot. Golem's great, Machamp's great, Alakazam is amazing. If you've got one, put time and effort into him, because he is so strong in this new update now. Arcanine, unfortunately, I hate the fact that he's dropped down, but he has. All the Eevee evolutions are worth putting time into as well. And Kingler has had a huge increase as well. Though he doesn't have a great moveset, with a 50% buff in CP, the guy is a load stronger than he used to be. But hopefully, if anything, you can look at this list and just reorder your Pokemon a little bit and work out your priorities in terms of who you're powering up, who you're not, and also realizing who unfortunately have dropped down a little bit on that maximum CP. So guys, you now have been completely informed on what has happened, what has gone on with all of these crazy changes to combat powers in Pokemon Go. As I said, I literally recorded a video a few days ago before this effect kicked in, and it'll be out very soon, so look out for that episode. But I had to get this out as soon as possible, because so many of you guys were tweeting me being so confused and wondered what on earth had happened. As I said, this could potentially happen again in the future. I'll keep you guys informed if it does. But for the moment, this is how we're looking for the maximum CPs for all the Pokemon in Gen 1 for Pokemon Go. If you found this useful, if you want to share it to your friends, give it a thumbs up. I'm sure they'll be excited to see what is going on and understand what on earth has happened. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more Pokemon videos as always. Got that new episode coming soon, and I'll see you guys then.